When we think about, making sure that we have an inclusive culture, that our team is comfortable with being who they are, that they can show up to work and share and express their opinions, they can provide innovative ideas, they can expand outside of the zone. We don't want them to be worried about, is their tie straight? I think that's like the least important piece of it. And I think it's representative of being comfortable and being who you are, being authentic, being genuine.
Welcome to Real Leadership, the podcast that cuts through the noise to focus on leaders who make, move, and process things in the real economy. Together, we'll discover the strategies and hard-earned lessons from pragmatic, gutsy leaders who operate in a world that is more steak than it is sizzle. Right here, we dive into their stories, challenges, and triumphs to go beneath the surface to the very heart of leadership in the real economy. I'm your host, Jim Weaver, Chief Operating Officer of the Onan Group, where we believe that real leadership does indeed matter. Let's go.
Understanding your labor market is crucial for successful recruitment. Onan Staffing's Recruitment Strategy Guide provides insights specific to your geographic location and the positions you're hiring for. Our Recruitment Strategy Guide delivers a clear snapshot of your labor market and actionable intel to tackle market-specific challenges. With Onan's expertise, we help you navigate and win in your competitive landscape. Empower your recruiting process with the insights you need. Learn more about Onan's Recruitment Strategy Guide at onanstaffing.com/strategy. Today, we bring you Carin Sampson, the dynamic vice president overseeing both human resources and marketing at IBT Industrial Solutions and its parent company, Cumulus Companies Incorporated. With a PhD in human capital development from the University of Southern Mississippi under her belt, Carin brings extensive expertise to her role at IBT, a distinguished family-owned business. IBT has actually been around for 70 plus years, and they have a history of providing comprehensive industrial distribution, training, and consulting services to companies who make, move, and process things across the U.S. Since 2018, Carin's transformative leadership has driven groundbreaking advancements within IBT, particularly in the realm of e-commerce services. Just last month, Carin was a speaker at the Envision B2B 2023 conference, where she discussed just that in integrating ERP and e-commerce technology. In an era marked by the growing skills gap, Carin has also spearheaded IBT's efforts to bridge knowledge gaps through innovative online training courses, benefiting not only the company that she's in, but also the industrial sector as a whole. Carin, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. That was an awesome intro. It sounds really impressive to hear it from not myself, I guess.
Well, it's all facts, right?
Yeah. I think those are all facts. It's a good spin on them. Yeah.
I've got a question that I've been told to ask you right out of the gate. Uh-huh. So, are you wearing comfortable shoes today?
Oh, yes. I'm wearing no shoes today. So
really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand you think it's important to wear comfortable shoes. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So that's kind of a representative overview of just, I think, how we need to be in work and in life. So, there was a time when I was young that I would really put a lot of effort into like how I presented myself at work, and I made sure that if I'm giving a presentation, I'm wearing pumps and a dress, and I've got pearls on, and I'm doing the whole deal, and I just feel like, and I think fortunately because of COVID, where we've had this opportunity to see people in their homes, and we are really being a lot more authentic. I think it's been really liberating for not me, but for everyone to be able to be who you are. And so I think it's like a deeper meaning, I guess, to be able to just be comfortable. And I was talking about this with my team, and someone had seen a TikTok about professional LARPing, where we like put on this mask about like what it means to be a professional. And actually, I think it ends up being distracting from what we really are and what we need to do and what we need to accomplish. So
now, when I think of LARPing, I think of like the Renaissance Festival, like dressing up.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that's what you mean by that.
Yeah, that is.
That's a great picture. Professional LARPing. I hadn't heard that expression before.
Yeah, I thought it was really clever because, we put on this persona that we have to be a certain way or act a certain way to get a level of respect. But when we think about, making sure that we have an inclusive culture, that our team is comfortable with being who they are, that they can show up to work and share and express their opinions, they can provide innovative ideas, they can expand outside of the zone. We don't want them to be worried about, is their tie straight? I think that's like the least important piece of it. And I think it's representative of being comfortable and being who you are, being authentic, being genuine. So
I have to confess, if I show up here with a jacket and tie on, everybody looks at me like, what are you doing? And I feel like I'm in a costume.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel, it's like, nobody's that, I don't think.
Right.
So
let's chase that thread a little bit. I think, or don't you think sometimes people use, I'm just being myself, as almost like, or I'm just being honest as an excuse. So where's that line in your mind?
Yeah, I think, when I've talked to this as I coach people individually a lot, and I work with folks independently. And, when we think about what our values are at our core, one of my values, in addition to being authentic, is to care for other people, to do what's in their best interest. And I think there is always a way to be honest, because I think it's important, particularly from a perspective of talent development, to, we have to be able to give honest feedback to folks so that they can help improve themselves, because we're all kind of on that journey together. But there's a way to do that isn't being a jerk, we don't have to take that approach. And I think we want honesty in a way that's also adhering to our own core values, which I think most people have. Like, I firmly believe that people are good at their core, that they want to do things that are beneficial for themselves, beneficial for others, that we have I think an innate sense of community and being able to take care of one another. And I think we have to live by those authentic values too. So I don't think there's a separation of them, but I do think that sometimes people use that as an excuse to, not be true to their whole core values. And so I think that's where the line is for me.
Recruiting top talent is tough. Onan Staffing focuses on people, offering exceptional benefits to attract and retain dedicated workers. Partner with us for flexible, data-driven solutions. Visit onanstaffing.com to learn more.
You came to IBT in 2018 as HR director, and over the course of the last 5 years, you now find yourself in the VP of HR and marketing role. That's quite a scope of responsibility, especially in a complex business. It's a big business, multiple states. It's not like it's some single location operation where you'd maybe have. I mean, to put marketing and human resources together under one, that's a big scope. So, how did the marketing piece of that come into play?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I get this question a lot, actually. So weirdly, it's not the first time I've had a dual role like this where it's internal facing and external. So way back in the day, I worked for a large retailer, and they'd created this role that was focused on employee and customer engagement. And the concept, I don't know if you're familiar with the Net Promoter Score, probably
Yes.
are, but there's,
Yep.
so that's a common tool that companies use for customers and then also for employees. And at the time, there was a lot of research and a lot of work being done that kind of centered on this philosophy that if you take really good care of your employees, then they are going to take really good care of your customers, and that's going to permeate throughout the whole business. And so I had a role centered around that for a couple of years, and then when I left there and went into the university, started in talent development, and then eventually also had career services. So similar type of concept, we want to develop, our employees to do the best that they can to serve our students. And similarly as, I've kind of operated with that philosophy for a long time. But within IBT, when I started here, we were at the very beginning of what has turned into a really impressive and incredible digital transformation. And I mean, I hate to even use the term digital transformation because it's so much broader than that. And I think that term is just overused. But we were starting down this road of saying, well, how are we going to skate to where the puck is going to be? We are a family-owned business. We're independent. The type of work that we do is very centered around relationships and very focused on, we have employees who have been here 20, 30, 40, 45 years. Like, that's very typical. Yeah. And we have customers that have been engaged with us for that same amount of time. So if you think about the relationship dynamics that exist between our account managers and their customers, it's much deeper than just I'm going out to make a sales call.
Yeah, it's not transactional.
It's not transactional at all. I mean, they're in communities together. Their kids play sports together. They, in some cases, went to high school together. Like, this is a very deep relationship. And so as we were thinking about, well, how do we modernize our business operations, and how do we take advantage of economies of scale? How do we build a business that's going to be successful for another 75 years? What is that going to look like? And it's a significant amount of change for a company that's been so stable for so long. So, so when I joined, we were starting that process, and really our CIO and I were like partners in crime. And so I was really engaged on the change management side of things. So we were implementing e-commerce. We were starting to build a data warehouse, starting to build these kinds of tools that would help us set the foundation for success. And to carry the team through that, was a role that I took on and really helped to move the needle on. And then as we've had turnover and change within the company, my being so closely connected to those teams and being, in the mix with them of, okay, how are we going to overcome these obstacles? How are we going to support these efforts? It was a really natural transition that when the opportunity arose, that it felt very natural and still really does. So so that's kind of how it got there, but which is a long story. So
that makes a lot of sense. It really does. I think it's great when organizations look at the human resource function as a real value. It's not a cost center. It's a value driving center, and that seems like kind of a next logical step to carry that forward. To have the same person that's communicating externally is the same one that's setting the tone culturally internally. Obviously, you have a team, but the one leading that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Let's zoom out real quick. We got a little bit into the depths of what's going on there. Maybe zoom out and tell the audience about your company. What does IBT do, and then the relationship with Cumulus as well? Yeah,
so IBT was the original piece of the business. We're family owned. We're in our third generation, managed by owned and managed by the Cloud family. Really incredible family. And we are an industrial distributor. So for those, I didn't know when I joined this company what that meant, but what that is we help manufacturers stay up and running. So if there are, it can be a variety of things, but if they need replacement parts for their machinery, if they need whole new automated services for their equipment, we set those things up. Our team engineers them, puts that together. We manage replacement parts. We provide a variety of services that are all centered around keeping manufacturing operations up and running at any point in time. So if I've had some cool experiences, been able to go to our customer locations, and that can vary from anything from making dog food to flour mills to grain elevators. So it's just a wide variety, and we keep that running. And at the end of the day, we're helping to put food on tables for people and make sure that what they need is available when they need it. So
we've seen. I was talking internally about you, and like, man, we've seen them out at this plant or at this facility. Your reps are out there. There's a very hands-on element to it, in the operation element to it, right?
Yes, most definitely. Our team is in the field. Our account managers are extremely well versed. It's so impressive to see the level of knowledge that they have on just in industrial maintenance and repair, engineering as a whole. And so they are out in getting on the ground, climbing up on ladders, checking things out, making sure that things are humming.
Land top technical and professional talent with Focus. Focus specializes in direct hire and contract placements, connecting you to exceptional candidates in IT, engineering, management, and more. Elevate your team with Focus. Visit getinfocus.com.
You've got people that have been with you for 4 decades. Something impressive that I read, and you're going through a digital transformation right now. It's really, or I guess you've come through it, or you're at the tail end of it. Something that I read that was really impressive about your company. You have a 93% retention rate. Yeah,
it is. We people stay with us. So that's
remarkable.
It's amazing, really. And I don't know exactly if we can attribute it to family ownership, but I will say that the Cloud family is incredibly invested in making sure that our employees are well taken care of, and they are true stewards of taking care of the team. And it's so much more. And I know that there is a real trend in in what people look for when they're talking about an employer of choice, and that this idea of family is kind of being shied away from, but really, there's a feeling when you work for IBT and Cumulus together that we're all in it together, that we're partners, that they're working through this, and that we're all treated fairly, that it's a mutual respect and a mutual mission, and that's existed long before I was ever here, but it's incredible. And I've never worked at a company that has this strong of a culture. So
what are the mechanisms, the pieces of framework, or you're a good sized company, to be able to, and obviously if you have a 93% retention rate, you are successfully pushing that culture out to the edges of the organization. What are the things that you do to ensure that you have that total permeation? Obviously you've achieved that, of this cultural, this positive culture that you have going.
Yeah. So I think it's a number of things, and I think it's a lot of little things that are hard to measure and quantify. So everything rises and falls on leadership, I think. So I think the Cloud family really sets that example, and there are lots of situations where we come upon, and I think in HR, this is something you're always doing, is like trying to figure out the balance between what's in the best interest of the business and what's in the best interest of the employees, and how to make that, ideally the same thing. And I think there are a lot of scenarios within IBT where, we will err on the side of doing what's in the best interest of our employees, because there's a long-term view of how are we going to, this needs to be sustainable for us, and it needs to be in the best interest of our employees. So I think that is a really important component of it. And as we've had folks who start in this company and then they work their way up, so there's a very common path, a career path, that our employees will start as a delivery driver, and we train them extensively. So they go through 3 to 5 years of training while they're working as a delivery driver, and then at the order desk, and then in inside sales, and they progress into store manager, and then to a regional manager. And so all of our regional managers that are employed with IBT today started as delivery drivers. There's not a single one who didn't. And so they have this path where they have grown up within the company, and that they have a true sense of what's important. And that's not just where we are today. That is a generational experience. And so because they've grown up in that, as we've grown, that's really helped us in that area. But the other things that we do are, kind of simple stuff where every quarter we have town hall meetings with the whole company, so everyone is there, and we do them on a platform that allows for, it's kind of set up like a conference room, so you can pop into different tables and just chit chat. And our executive team, we visit every branch every year, and we get out into the field, and then I encourage my teams to get out into the field and go visit and talk to people, and we have true strong relationships. There's not a single person in our company that I don't know, that I haven't had a conversation with, that I don't know their name.
Yeah.
That's the type of care that I think is required to build a culture like that.
So great employees want to progress. Sounds like you have a clear track for them. But if you're not turning people over, have you run into challenges of not having a spot for, a person's ready to make the jump, but you don't have a spot for them? So how do you deal with that? Yeah,
so we have a couple of really cool things that we've done more recently to support that. One of which is a program that we've put in place from the Cotter organization, which is for change management, John Cotter. We call it the big opportunity. We weren't real specific about that, but
yeah.
So every 90 days, we put up a set of challenges that the organization is facing. Here's problems that are not on our big strategic roadmap, but they're things that we need to tackle and we need to solve. And we ask for volunteers to build teams and go and solve them.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And that gives people a couple of things. One, opportunity to try things that are outside of their scope. And then two, it gives them exposure to the executive team. So they present their solutions and we implement them. We provide budget for them to make it happen. And so there's a chance for people to get outside of their comfort zone. And then, we don't look at those career paths as just vertical. There's lots of other opportunities. So right. We just finished our mid-year reviews, which we actually are entirely focused on development and like, what do you want to do with your career? Where do you want to go? What are the things you're interested in? And we've created roles when those things arise. So we have several store managers actually who have taken a strong interest in other areas of the business. So one in particular is really was very passionate about e-commerce, and so he's now our digital specialist / store manager, and part of his job today is to help our other branches adopt digital channels. And so they have a subject matter expert they can lean on who understands their daily grind and knows their challenges, and they can reach out to them. So we build them where we see them, and we provide opportunities for those paths too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Curious, just on the project-based opportunities, personally, I think the exposure, the experience is the value, but do you also compensate them somehow or bonus them for it?
No, we don't. It's entirely volunteer-based. And the reason for that is because we wanted people to do something they're cared about. And it's not uncommon for me to hear something along the lines of, man, I've been hoping we would do this for like 15 years or something like that. Yeah. And they're passionate about it. And they care so much. So, when we have turnover, a bulk of it is in retirements.
Right.
And if you've invested 20 or 30 or 40 years of your life to this company, you want to leave a legacy. And so the team is very engaged in that and very invested in the future. And that, is really compelling. And so we've had nearly 30% of our employee base volunteer for a team at some point in time or another. And a lot of them volunteer every single time. So it's pretty common.
Yeah. That's great. That speaks to if you have a learning and development culture, then that would be looked at as a positive thing. If you don't, people, I would think, would be, well, how much do I get paid to do that?
Right. Yeah.
So that's great. What a great dynamic. I read a quote where you said, and you correct me if this is wrong, but you believe any person can learn to do anything.
Yeah.
Is that an accurate quote?
Yeah, it is accurate. I do believe it.
Why do you believe that?
Because I've seen it over and over again, and you hear these stories about like the first person who ran a marathon, like they're the first person who did it, and so you see that example, and then once one person sees somebody do it, then they know that it's possible for themselves. And I do believe that's very true. And I have, and I try to live that myself. Like, okay, well, we don't have anybody who knows how to, build a SQL query. I guess I'm going to go learn and I'll figure that out, and then I'll teach somebody else. And so I think those are things that are important to ingrain in the team. And we really have to be able to focus on that. And it's interesting and important and timely, I think, for that concept in workforce development as we're thinking about the way things are changing, and that we have a skills mismatch, I think, in the labor pool today. And I think we have to look at talent a little bit more flexibly and be willing to teach and train wherever that comes from. So, I think about our digital specialist who's also a store manager. I know for sure he did not know what an API was when we first started working with him. But if that was maybe a year and a half ago, and now he's able to run projects for e-commerce. And so there's, you have to be willing to make that investment so that people have the tools that they need to build and grow. But there is absolutely not a person that I've worked with or met that couldn't learn how to do something. Now, we're all going to be, predisposed to have certain aptitudes, but if we can focus in on where people are passionate, then the sky's the limit.
I was going to ask you if you could help me get in the NBA at 52.
You just keep practicing. I mean.
Yeah. Where do you, I 100% agree with you. I think we err too much on the side of thinking small in terms of what people are capable of doing. Where do you, but there is a reality,
Sure.
I'm not going to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
How do you, I don't know, where is that line for you? Or do you or is your philosophy just open it up and, hey, if we shoot for the sun and get the moon, that's great.
That is absolutely my philosophy because I think, and this is just my experience, that the corporate culture can be really limiting. I think we say no too often, and I think we, put people into boxes they maybe don't belong in, and we make these summary judgments that I think it's important to get away from and give people the opportunity and the tools. And I think if we provide that and build a culture where that's allowed, where it's okay to experiment and it's okay to have some failures here and there and taking some of these risks in areas where it's not going to be hugely detrimental to your business, then, why not, I guess, is the other question. So why wouldn't we take that approach?
Finding experienced, vetted aerospace contract workers ready to work with highly specialized skill sets isn't easy. Onan Aerospace can help with a wide pool of the best talent, attracted through our superior benefits. To learn more, visit onanaerospace.com.
How do you handle situations, and I would imagine you had some of these situations recently. You have a workforce that's been with you a long, long time. You're making a digital transformation. How do you handle situations where people don't want to learn the new thing? It's great when they volunteer and they want it, but you need them to step up. You need them to, the job changed. You need them to do something new, but they don't want to do it. How have you guys approached that?
Yeah, so it's been a pretty big variety of ways and approaches. And I will say with e-commerce, we're struggling with that we struggled through that with both our employees and our customers. So we have customers in very rural communities that are not as technologically savvy and may not be interested. And plus also they like to talk to our team. Like it's a social engagement for them. So as we've worked through this, we've taken a lot of different approaches. We've incentivized some of these components, particularly e-commerce adoption. We have been very intentional in designing the change management process that we're going to go through and setting realistic expectations for what success looks like. Yeah. And then we've also built avenues where we can kind of separate things out a little bit. So, like, for example, our account managers, we ask so much of them. We ask so much of our account managers, so much of our inside sales teams. Okay, can you know 2 million products in depth and also understand the applications? And then can you also sell training to our customers and sell e-commerce and do, all of these things?
Yeah.
And so that we have to take a realistic approach to well, maybe that's not the way to do it. And so being able to segment out responsibilities so that we want you focused in on product and service, and then we want you focused in on the digital experience has been helpful. So we think about that going into the efforts, and then we incentivize, and we try not to do things that are, we try not to build stupid policies that people aren't going to follow anyway, So
Right.
we really try to do that so that it's, and, sometimes that's hard because it just kind of bubbles up in the way. But, but there's always going to be people who are not going to jump on board and aren't going to go. And our philosophy has been we're going to build this investment for our future growth and our future success. We're going to line the talent up to support it in the way that we need to, understanding that not everybody's going to go there, and we'll help them along the way, and we'll do our best. And what's been really interesting about it is that as we've gone, more people have been open to it than we anticipated. They see the big picture, they see the long-term need. And those that aren't, really kind of, fall into the background. So we've done lots and lots of talent development types of tools. Like we did a deck of cards to how do we talk about change? How do we talk about these things where our managers would start meetings with this kind of, how do we build this based on our culture? And we tie that all into our values, and that connects the dots, and we're able to get there. But it's never easy. We're emotional beings. We are, that's the way we are, and it's uncomfortable to get out of the zone. But yeah.
Good. Okay. What's one trait that you would, if you could instill one trait into every employee, what would it be for you?
Curiosity.
And why? Curiosity.
Yeah. I think it's, I'm a very firm believer that, that people can learn to do anything if they put their minds to it. Maybe you can't be in the NBA, but you can certainly learn to throw. I don't even know that much about sports, but you can shoot a basket. You can learn to be really good at that.
Yeah. True.
And I think that, even sometimes our world kind of beats that out of us as we are, coming up, and we get into these boxes where our experience drives us. And sometimes that's not effective. We have to get out, try some new things, experiment, learn something new. And I think that helps us to continue always learning.
Yeah. That's my trait that I say too.
Is it?
So we're kindred. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're coming up on time. I did want to ask you. So you've had a really impressive career. You're still early in it, and you've covered quite a bit of ground already. What advice would you give your 25-year-old self if you could go back and talk to her, the wiser, more seasoned Carin? What would you say to your young self?
I think that I would have just I guess leaned more into being comfortable in my own skin earlier on. And, part of that, I think you have to just, that's life. You have to kind of get through. But, I didn't grow up with parents who worked in blue collar fields. So, starting out, it was like learning a foreign language and learning, all of these things that were challenging. And I was uncomfortable, showing, some sort of weakness or vulnerability. And I think if I had it to do over again, I would have just been, 100%, this is Carin Sampson, and I'm comfortable, and here's my thoughts, and here's my opinion. Because, looking back on it, like I could have moved faster probably and could have helped other people as well had I just kind of leaned into who I was.
Yeah. Good. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. IBT sounds like an amazing company, and it sounds like you're doing a really great job in the role you're in. And I know a lot of our listening base probably works with you, so it's neat to have that insight into how you guys tick. I appreciate it.
And thank you so much for having me. This is a good thought experiment too. So
good. Thank you for listening. This podcast was powered by Onin, a family of staffing companies providing real staffing solutions to manufacturing, logistics, and food processing companies across the United States of America. To get in touch or learn more about partnering with an Onin Group company, visit us at www.oningroup.com. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.